we got our good friend Matt Broder, the guy who was in the flesh yesterday. He was down there at Allen Park. He was watching the Giants in the Lions joint practice, and Broder wrote an article, woodwardsports.com, which you can check out, some of his day 2 notes of practice with the Giants. And I'll just start off, Broder, with a simple introduction before we get into some of these notes. But what'd you see? Anything stood out to you that you want to bring up? Anything that you've been holding on to?
Yeah, so I was watching the defense yesterday. They had the Giants offense going against the Lions defense on one of the 2 fields at camp, and the Lions offense going against the Giants defense on the other. So I was focused on the defense, and I left with kind of mixed emotions. They didn't have their best day. They showed flashes. There were a lot of individuals both making plays, but also those same individuals didn't always make the same mistake twice. So it was a lot of mistakes kind of across the entire team defense. So it didn't all come together. But there were flashes from individual players. So it was good to see them go up against the Giants and some real players that they have. And if there was one takeaway from the day, it's I may be drafting Darren Waller and Darius Slayton in fantasy football if I can get him. If I can get him at the right time in the draft.
Guy's got the inside look on the
Oh wow,
Dude,
he's a 4th round pick.
Darren Waller is a beast. He's huge.
I bet.
He's such a mismatch too.
Yeah, like what? 6'7", 6'6".
Who did they have? Just a quick question, Broder. Who did they have most of the time when Darren Waller was kind of split out in the slot, or just in general? Who did they have covering Darren Waller most of the time?
Honestly, when he was split out, they had C.J. Gardner-Johnson on him often. And although there is a huge height and weight discrepancy, C.J. held his own. You know he's not backing down from Waller. But he would switch out. There were linebackers on him when he was on some of his short to mid routes, and even a safety. I think I remember seeing Ife Melifonwu
he's a big boy.
on him one time. He's just a big man. He's a big man. So he just got to stay healthy, right? I don't know as much about the Giants' offense this year, but those 2 guys are good. But, yeah, the Lions' defense, they mixed emotions.
Yeah, bro, just really quick, break down the Giants' depth chart. No,
Not going to happen.
You got something?
All right, so you talked about the Lions defense. There's one player in particular that kind of stood out when reading your article that you were very, very complimentary of, and that is Josh Pascal.
Duh.
So, Josh Pascal, tell me what you saw, and how important would it be for Josh Pascal to actually be a solid contributor on this defense? Could he be one of those guys that unlocks maybe a top 15, top 10 defense?
Without a doubt, I think so. If he plays how he's been showing flashes of in training camp, that's an added dimension to this defense and added versatility within the defensive line and linebacker crew that we maybe didn't expect to get as much of that production this year. But I've seen him in the backfield a lot, and that's coming both from an edge position, but also inside playing a defensive tackle. Yesterday, and again, the whole defense didn't do great, and he didn't have a perfect practice either. But in the run defense, when the Giants were running the ball, I saw Josh Pascal not only take up a lot of space and sort of disrupt the Giants in the backfield, but also he was getting to the quarterback and causing Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor on some reps to have to weasel out of the pocket. And unfortunately, both of them are relatively mobile quarterbacks. And one of the notes I had was we struggled with Tyrod Taylor. It was our second line defense going against Tyrod. So, there are a handful of runners, a handful of mobile quarterbacks on the Lions schedule coming up, including Lamar, Justin Fields twice, Bryce Young and Geno Smith even. So Josh Pascal, he's just been way more powerful than I thought. He's a strong dude. He is a strong man.
Broder, inject all the Kool-Aid in my veins.
Yes.
Like I love Josh Pascal.
Yeah.
Like these guys know I always hype him up. But another question I have too is you write about this linebacker core.
Yeah.
And that's been the hardest position to really evaluate because you have Malcolm Rodriguez who had a great day, Derek Barnes who's making plays, you got Jack Campbell, Anzalone who the coaching staff trusts. Like, what are they going to do with this linebacker core? Like, who's been standing out the most?
It seems like they all have good days separately almost. I mean, yesterday I noted it was Malcolm and Derek Barnes had really solid days yesterday. Alex Anzalone has been kind of the steady presence in the middle, and Dan Campbell talked about him in his press conference yesterday as being that guy who can play all of the linebacker positions, and we know he's that leader of the linebacker crew at this moment, maybe until Jack Campbell continues to develop. But the emergence of Derek Barnes has brought that added element, that added competition to the linebacker room that maybe we didn't expect. Even if, on opening day or early in the season, the starting linebackers are Anzalone and Jack Campbell, we're going to see Malcolm and Derek Barnes a lot.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see Derek Barnes a lot in maybe more of that hybrid linebacker edge position that we see James Houston working on. Romeo Pascal, Romeo Quara. We're going to see them use Derek Barnes and his sort of added versatility that we're seeing in a lot of different ways on this defense, coming off the edge and also in pass protection, which he looked good yesterday.
And another thing, too, just to ask, because I want Lucas to get a question in, because I know
Yeah.
he's got some questions as well. I'll leave the Laporta stuff to him because he's going to get into it.
Oh, yeah.
But at least from, the rookies, and Dan talked about the guys that impressed. Brian Branch.
Oh, dude.
Like, the dude, and I brought this up, I talked about it earlier. If you're a guy who you're flying around Saban's defense and he trusts you, as soon as you get into the, you start playing for him, right, as a freshman, Saban, he's earned Saban's trust, he's made an impact, he's been a big part of that defense. He walks into this defense where their secondary was not great. It's going to be hard to get him off the field. Now you're seeing Tracy Walker with the second team. What's going on with that? Because Tracy Walker was the captain last year. So what's going on with the secondaries? Brian Branch, I don't think he'll be on the field day one.
He definitely will be on the field day one, whether that's on the opening play or not. Brian Branch is going to make a difference for this team way earlier than maybe some of us expected. And it's not a shot on Tracy Walker. Brian Branch has been getting those reps at the nickel position with the first team, moving C.J. Gardner-Johnson to safety alongside Kirby Joseph. This is more the bonus to have Tracy Walker come in with that second unit and quarterback that defense and be the leader in that secondary is huge. And I think that's gonna pay dividends for us all throughout the season. But Brian Branch has been sensational, man. Like the things he can do out there, his instincts. I think it was Barry Sanders a couple weeks ago. He said something, and I'm gonna paraphrase this, but it was about Jahmyr Gibbs, and it was about him being a fast player, but he was talking about the mental aspect and how smart Jahmyr Gibbs, and then his ability to diagnose his smarts allow him to play faster, allow his speed to show up even more on the field. I was thinking about that as it relates to Brian Branch too. Like he's that guy, like you mentioned, on the Alabama defense. He's been a starter since his freshman year. He's one of the smartest players on the defense already, and I think that's why we've seen him look faster in these drills or stick with wide receivers, slots, tight ends, be able to do so many different things on the field. His athleticism has surprised me way more than I thought. The knock on him coming out was his 40 time, but he almost looks faster in pads, or at least maybe he's the guy who doesn't get slower when he puts pads on.
Right.
But his instincts and being able to whether it's tracking the running back, blitzing the quarterback, or just sticking with a slot receiver, which he's going to be matched up against, he's looked really freaking good.
What about you, Lucas? You got anything?
Yeah, so we kind of just put the poll up that I was going to ask my question. Outside of Jahmyr Gibbs, because I think him being the running back, he's going to get a lot of playing time, Broder, which Lions rookie do you think would be the safest to bet on having like a seamless rookie season, having a huge impact even as a rookie?
That's a tricky one.
From what you have seen so far.
Yeah. Since they haven't just given Jack Campbell that second starting linebacker spot, it's been hard. They've been splitting the reps up a lot. That would have been the one, maybe I would say, before training camp, that he would be the one making the most impact. The more I see him, Brian Branch, I think, is that dude. Like, the things he can do on Aaron Glenn's defense, the versatility he brings. We've been talking on the heavyweights a couple times, the concept of positionless football, coming over from positionless basketball, the way that game's turning into it. With Aaron Glenn, his ability or his strategy of a lot of man coverage in the secondary, a lot of blitzing, a lot of pressure on the quarterback, they've gone out and got guys who can fit that role, whether it's Brian Branch, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, even looking at the second team, a Will Harris, Chase Lucas, if he gets time at quarterback, he's fighting for one of those last spots.
Right.
There are these versatile defensive backs that can play. They can play corner, they can play safety, they can play nickel. Aaron Glenn's going to use them in so many different ways. So I think Brian Branch is just going to see the field more than everyone else, because he's going to be able to play 3 different positions on that defense.
Yeah, you got to think with all the versatility they have, like there will be different packages where different guys are in there. Like Tracy Walker will be in one. Like there's going to be the option for these guys to play.
100%.
No doubt about it. Aaron Glenn will find a way to do that. I guess my final question for you is, and just to be objective here,
yeah,
anybody that disappointed you, anybody that didn't have a great day or have a great 2 days, the last 2 days.
Julian Okwara is probably the easy one to
Jeff
target.
Didn't want to hear that.
And it's not because I saw him do anything outrageously bad or that he had a horrible practice, but it doesn't appear like he's taking that next step or making those strides. Even Romeo Okwara, who hasn't had a perfect training camp, he showed flashes of what he can be. He's had some good practices. He's had some good plays. Julian Okwara has shown a couple flashes, but he was one of those guys I just wanted to see more of him out there. So
right.
that's maybe who I would go.
Man,
with.
we appreciate you, Broder.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Like a Broder coming in, just dropping facts, and then he's gone. He's like it's like the guy's a superhero. He really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a comet. Exactly. No, we appreciate you, Broder. Where can people find you? Your social medias.
WoodwardSports.com. Hit up all the Woodward Sports socials, and my articles are right on the website. MattBro21 on Twitter, which some of the articles are linked to. So hit up Woodward Sports, and that'll lead you to the promised land.
Yeah, you can check out his latest article.